Welcome to Pillar 1. This module is all about the window of tolerance and the vagus nerve. Now you are receiving a booklet with all of the information you need to really understand what these processes and theories and physiological reactions are, and then some very clear step-by-step processes of reflection questions and things you can be doing to practice with this new knowledge in mind. So I don't want to go into detail of everything that's in the booklet because you can do that on your own, and I want you to reach out if you do need further support or questions or if anything's unclear whatsoever, because my goal is that this program is very self-sufficient and that you have everything you need, even just in the booklet, so that these videos are bonus, okay? So they're not adding in more information. I just want you to know that you're not alone and that I am here for you. And I'm in this work just as much as you are. Okay? This is a daily practice for me. Some days go really well, other days definitely feel like more of a struggle, but it gets better and better and better. And I can promise you that any stress that you are chronically dealing with right now, just this simple understanding of the window of tolerance and the vagus nerve is going to change your perception of stress and give you really clear steps of what you can do to actually move away from the chronic stress that has been plaguing you for years. So I'm going to give you a very brief synopsis of why this has been impactful for me. Okay, so the window of tolerance comes from the book called Mindsight by Daniel Siegel. And what's really fascinating about the window of tolerance is that there's really three parts to it. Okay, so the window of tolerance is your optimal state, your peak state, your ability to step into that flowing energy, one moment flowing into the next. So you're mindful, you're present, okay? We can have a very expansive window of tolerance in some areas of our life or on some days when you're really nourished and grounded. And then other relationships, times of life, times of the month, depending on what kind of nourishment, again, you have lacking, it could make it so it's a really, really small window of tolerance. Now, what that means is that when it's small, you can get triggered that much easier into a stress response, okay? So the stress response is healthy and fine. It's not something we want to get rid of. But what we don't want is chronic stress, okay? So on average, we're triggered about 50 to 300 times a day. That's average. So if you're someone who's dealing with chronic stress, it can be more than that. So when we're initially triggered, we go up into hyperarousal, as Daniel Siegel refers to it, but other names for it would just be the fight or flight response, anxiety, overwhelm, overthinking, just getting into that state where you feel your shoulders lift up, you feel like your mind is moving a mile a minute. It might even be hard to finish a sentence before you move on to the next sentence. So that's classic anxiety, classic overwhelm. But what Daniel Siegel points out that was a game changer for me is on the bottom of the window of tolerance. So what happens in our body is that if we are in chronic stress, we can only sustain that for so long. Okay? What happens is we actually get dropped down below the window of tolerance into hypoarousal. Hypoarousal is shut down. You might feel heavy, lethargic. You might start saying things like, oh, I don't even care. Or you might step into a victimhood mentality. The world's against me. I never get what I want. It's a really low vibration, heavy state where what's needed is social contact, social engagement. But I know from my experience, it's really hard to engage or push yourself into a social environment when you're in hypoarousal. Really, really difficult. The vagus nerve is the window of tolerance in your body physiologically. So the vagus nerve starts from the base of your skull and moves down through many of the vital organs. So not only does it touch with peripheral branches, it touches the ears and the occipital lobe. So it impacts your ability to hear and to see. It then also has two main branches, and they first go down right around the outside of the throat. So this impacts your ability to speak, swallow, stick your tongue out, make sounds. It continues down through your heart, through the diaphragm, through your stomach, through the small intestines, and it lands in the colon. So the two branches serve as the parasympathetic nervous system. So one way of thinking about it is that the vagus nerve is the brakes. Okay, so the stress response goes off. The vagus nerve is the part of your body that actually goes, oh, it's safe, pump the brakes, shut off that cortisol response. So we want a healthy vagus nerve that can constantly be pumping the brakes so that we're not staying up in that chronic stress state. Okay, so when we shut down, what that is the vagus nerve is actually recognizing it's not healthy to stay up here. I'm clearly in a massive amount of danger, and the next best thing to do is actually play dead. So that's what your body does. You shut down. You might feel suddenly like you're lazy or you have no energy. You just want to sleep. It's really hard to do anything when you're in hypoarousal because your body is literally shut down. Now, why this was so impactful for me is that I had a pattern of hypoarousal. I would go for days, sometimes weeks, in such a depressed state that I was actually diagnosed with depression and an anxiety disorder and was on medication for a long time. But getting the language for hypo and hyperarousal really changed my perspective in what was going on inside my mind and body. So now when I feel my heart rate go up, my mind starts spinning, I feel anxious, overwhelmed, in fear, what I do now is I say, here I am in hyperarousal. And what I need to do is down-regulate myself to come back to the window of tolerance, because nothing good can happen when I'm up here. I'm not going to problem solve, I'm not going to learn, I'm not going to evolve, I'm not going to heal. So the first step is always down-regulate. So how I do that is 3 breaths. 3 breaths where the exhale is longer than the inhale. So by doing that, actually lengthening the exhale, you're stimulating the vagus nerve and you're sending the signal to your body, actually I am safe, I'm fine. So this is where we can consciously hijack our system and retrain it to understand we're safe, okay? So on the other end, it's just the opposite. So now whether I wake up first thing in the morning and feel lethargic and tired, or someone says something or does something, or whatever it is, something triggers me and I find myself in that state of, ugh, I just don't care. I don't want to do anything. I feel lazy. I don't want to see anyone. Now what I do is I say, okay, here I am in hypoarousal. Nothing's wrong with me. I'm not broken. This is a state. This is a physiological state that my body is taking me into. Nothing's going to be solved in this state. I can't problem solve. I can't learn. I can't grow. I can't heal. So the first thing I need to do is upregulate. 3 breaths. 3 breaths where your inhale is longer than your exhale. But what it does is it brings you back in the window of tolerance where you actually have your whole brain intact now. Because anytime that you're in a stress response, your body thinks you're in danger. And when you're in danger, the priority is get safety now. Nothing else can really be processed. You can't digest, you can't absorb nutrients, you can't connect with people around you, you can't learn, you can't grow, you can't heal. So when we can bring ourselves back into the window of tolerance over and over and over again, we suddenly are going to have more space and energy to actually move through our problems, our struggles, in a very coherent, logical, and efficient way. It gets easier and easier, but really you have everything you need already. You are wise, you have experience, we're all programmed to want to grow. So you have what you need. Even that inner healer, it's in there. You don't need to learn how to heal. We need to learn how to get out of our own way. We need to learn how to step off that habitual loop of stress, shut down, and step more into that space where we can create and grow and live our lives. That's what window of tolerance and the vagus nerve can do for you. I'm really excited for you to go through this module. Try it out, go through the reflection questions, listen to the meditation audios. They're only going to help you connect with your breath and really learn how to develop your ability to breathe in a way that cultivates safety. Your breath, your ability to breathe is a muscle like any other muscle in your body. And although it's an autopilot function, it's not always serving you. So by taking that conscious time every single day to connect with your breath, lengthen your inhale, lengthen your exhale, feel the muscles of your breath moving, The intercostal muscles of the ribs, they expand, they contract. The diaphragm, with your inhale, it drops down, creating more space. With your exhale, it rises up to assist the pushing out of oxygen. Okay? This is all happening together coherently, and the more you focus on it, the stronger it gets. Again, if you have any questions, let me know. I would love to hear from you. Have fun.